Hey, hi everybody. Welcome to Phil and Dave's Excellent Adventures. Just Dave here. Today, we're talking about the movie Vengeance. This is going to be a spoiler review, so if you haven't seen the movie and you are concerned about spoilers, I would suggest you go and watch the movie first before you watch this review. Vengeance is the directorial debut of writer and star BJ Novak from The Office. It's about a blogger or a podcaster, I suppose, from New York who goes to Texas to investigate the death of a former girlfriend, acquaintance. So as far as what I liked about the movie, overall, I like the cast. I really like Issa Rae as his friend who sort of runs a podcast that he's working with. I've seen her in a show on HBO that I can't remember the name of right now. Not Awkward, maybe, but Typical, something like that. Anyway, she's good. Boyd Holbrook as the brother of the girlfriend. It was really good. I like Boyd Holbrook from, he's right there behind, from Narcos, and he was in the Predator movie. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him finding something that works for him. Dove Cameron as one of the sisters I thought was really good, and then Leo Tipton as the former girlfriend was really good as well. I thought John Mayer, there's a funny opening scene with John Mayer where they're sort of discussing the dating scene and what it's like to be sort of a single guy who's dating multiple women, I suppose. And it could definitely come across as, kind of douchey, and I'm sure it does for some people. But to me, I thought it was sort of funny and sort of tongue-in-cheek kind of satire kind of thing. And I thought, yeah, it was pretty good. And John Mayer may be playing himself. I'm not sure. He is apparently, the character is named John. So he's very much playing a version of himself or someone similar to himself, it seems, or the way the public perceives him. There's also a scene early on where his character, BJ Novak's character, is pitching to Issa Rae's character. And I thought that was interesting, the way he's sort of explaining his insights and the way that people are, what separates us is time and all of that, which I thought was sort of kind of an interesting concept. And like she said, it's a good idea, but it's not really a story. It's not really a podcast. And so then as the story does develop, I thought it was overall a pretty interesting story. I didn't necessarily believe that he would necessarily want to go down to Texas. I feel like he would just say no, but the story's got to happen, so that's fine. And overall, I did think it was pretty good. And I thought the overall themes of the story, as he sort of mentions, as he's figuring out what the podcast is supposed to be about, sort of the themes of, America and what separates us and wanting to be famous and what the truth is and not wanting to, believe in the truth and sort of coming up with our own kind of idea of the truth and all of that. Very interesting ideas, a lot of good stuff there. I did like the setting. It's set in a small town in Texas somewhere. I guess, what was it, 3 hours from Abilene or something like that. And so, yeah, I've been to Texas a couple of times to the airport or whatever. I spent a little time in Oklahoma, but to me, it seemed pretty authentic and pretty realistic. And it's sort of a fish out of water kind of type story thing, but I didn't think it was too offensive. Now, again, I'm sure people from Texas might watch it and disagree, but I think it seemed to be fairly respectful and not too much of a caricature of the way that people, from a small town in Texas might act. I thought a lot of the humor really worked for me. There's a scene where Boyd Holbrook's character is saying, it's either boom or bust out here. And then BJ Novak goes, well, which is it? He goes, kind of in between right now. Just like stupid little jokes like that I thought were really funny. Or just kind of visual sight gags, like when they're first driving in his truck and there's a pickup truck and there's just two shotguns on the rack behind him. Like, to me, that's just funny because, I'm sure to them that's typical everyday life, but somebody like me who grew up near a suburb of Detroit, it's not something I see very often. I mean, guns, sure, but not gun racks so much. I also thought there was a scene with where he goes to the rodeo and he explains that he's a writer. And he goes, oh, what do you ride? Because he thinks he's talking about writing something. And then he very condescendingly starts to explain what writing is, how the process of writing works. And, you're watching it going, of course they know what writing is. Come on, man. And the guy calls him out on being condescending and stuff. And so it's really funny. And it has to do with this Texas versus Texas Tech thing, which of course he just cheered for Texas because he assumed everyone would cheer for Texas. And he was the only one. And then he had to defend it. And yeah, it was a funny scene. And then right after that, they had the scene where they explain Six Flags and what that means, and that it represents all of the different countries that Texas has been a part of, including Mexico and Spain and France as part of the Louisiana Purchase, and then the United States and Texas itself, and then finally the Confederacy. So good times, and that's what the theme park is named after. They point that out. Yeah. So yeah, that's weird. As far as what I disliked about the movie, I really thought I like BJ Novak. I think he's a good writer. He wrote a kid's book. I think it's called This Book Has No Pictures or something. I thought that was pretty good. He wrote a lot of episodes of The Office. He's got a book that I've read some stories from that I thought were pretty good. But I think for this story and this character, he's a little old for it. Now, granted, I'm sure there's a lot of guys in their 40s who are still, you know, dating women and still single and everything. And he very well might be that kind of guy. I'm not sure what his personal life is like. But to me, it seemed like the kind of story that would be more about a 20-year-old, you know, somebody in their late to mid 20s or even early 20s, and not so much somebody in their early 40s. You know, it's fine. I guess it works. But I do think maybe it would have been better with a slightly younger actor in that role. You know, it's a story about a writer. And I feel like a lot of writers do this. They like to write stories about writers. And I guess it makes sense, write what you know, but it's always one of those things like, oh, really? You're writing a story about a writer. Interesting. Okay. Oh, he's about the same age as you. Oh, he's also a white guy. Oh, okay. Interesting. I wonder who the story's about. So that always kind of irritates me when the main character is a writer, because I'm like, okay, this is clearly, even if it's not, I'm going to assume it's going to clearly be like sort of an extension of the writer themselves, especially when they're also the, you know, the main star of the movie and the director of the movie. And yeah, he's trying to do a podcast in the thing. I'm not big into podcasts. I know they are quite popular and a lot of people like them, especially the true crime, you know, missing woman kind of thing. They do bring that up. But for me, yeah, I guess I've just never really gotten into podcasts. They seem kind of, I guess to me, they seem like it's instantly going to date the movie, because in 5 or 10 years, podcasts might not be as popular as they are now. They might, who knows? They could be even more popular. But to me, it very much dates the movie as setting in a very specific time, which is, you know, the early 2020s, where podcasts are very popular. But, you know, I guess that's part of the story, and so it kind of ties in. But I think he could have been saying something like a writer, which he is a writer, I suppose, but he could have just been writing an article and not doing a podcast, and that would have made it a little less timeless. Granted, writing in print media is dying, but there's still websites you can write for. There's still stuff like that. I guess the biggest issue I had with this movie, and I hate to say it, is Ashton Kutcher. I don't dislike Ashton Kutcher. I've liked some of his movies. I thought The Butterfly Effect was okay. And I don't think he's a terrible actor. He seems like a nice enough person. I know has donated a bunch of money to help stop human trafficking, and he's a smart guy. I think he's got like a degree in chemical engineering or something from Iowa State or something like University of Iowa. So yeah, he seems like a nice enough guy. He seems like a cool dude, but yeah, I guess I never really noticed until this role in this movie the dearth of charisma that he has, because this is a character, and as soon as he comes in, you kind of, his hat's down, and you're like, who is this? I wonder if they're going to get to play this character. And it's a fun character. It's a, you know, it's a real scenery chewing kind of character that would be great if you had somebody with just any sort of charisma at all. And you know, and I'm not a big fan of, like, say, Matthew McConaughey as a person, but he could maybe have pulled that off, or even like a Channing Tatum, who, again, don't like him, but could have, or Martin Henderson, I think was the guy from that X movie. Who was kind of doing a Matthew McConaughey impression, some say. But yeah, somebody like that, somebody with a little more swagger, somebody maybe even a little older, although Ashton Kutcher is also in his 40s, but he looks pretty young. Yeah, somebody a little sleazier, somebody a little, I don't know, somebody with a little more charisma, I think I would have liked in the role. And it's just, he doesn't, to me, he doesn't sell it. And I don't really believe him in that role. And it's an important role. It's a big role that the whole kind of movie hinges on that character, and I think in some ways on his performance. And it's the kind of performance that, you know, Val Kilmer would have crushed, you know, 20 years ago, or 25, 30 years ago, or somebody like that, or, you know, I don't know, Gary Sinise. Obviously, like I said, somebody younger, but it's a really fun, really cool role that unfortunately they cast with Ashton Kutcher, which I don't understand. So, and I guess part of the issue with that too is that the movie's just a little too predictable for me. You know, I'm watching it, there's a lot going on, there's a lot of pieces. You can kind of see, they're sort of assuming the entire time that the girl was actually not murdered. She just overdosed. And then there's a point where they reveal very oddly, kind of very casually, that she did like pills, because everyone had said she didn't do pills. And so then you're led to believe, oh, okay, she did overdose. But no, it turns out she maybe did, or he was somehow complicit in her death, Ashton Kutcher's character. To me, I thought his character was supposed to be kind of the red herring. So, after they revealed that Sancholo didn't do it because he was the most silly drug dealer in the world, I thought, oh, who isn't that? It can't be Ashton Kutcher because that's too obvious. And there's supposed to be this scene where he meets Ashton Kutcher and he's kind of smart and he's philosophical and he kind of imparts this knowledge to him. And, BJ Novak's like, wow, you're totally different than I expected. And the thing is, you needed somebody more charismatic to sell that. You needed me to believe that you would see the guy and be like, oh no, this guy's cool, man. I can't believe I ever doubted this guy. Because again, no, it was so obvious it was him that I just assumed that it couldn't be him because it's way too obvious, And so then part of the problem is, like I said, they have this Sancholo character who I guess is the red herring, maybe, or I guess there's multiple, I don't know, but another suspect who maybe could have killed her. And then he goes to meet with him backstage and he turns off the recorder and he reveals that the woman would read Harry Potter to him when they were kids, which was kind of nice and a cute little moment. And I'm like, okay, I get what they're doing here. The guy seems tough, but he's actually not. He's like a nice guy. He's a soft guy, But then they kind of went too far with it for me with the, I couldn't have done it because I was with my little cousin or whatever niece at an Adele concert. So, not only did this girl read to him, but now he likes Adele too. For me, that was too much. I feel like one or the other would have worked. At this point now, the guy's just a cartoon character in this movie. So, okay. So yeah, after, it's clearly not Sancholo because he was at the Adele concert, then I don't know, to me, yeah. And then the other big issue I had, well, one other thing that bothered me a little bit was El Stupido, the character, the name of El Stupido, just because it was never really resolved. They bring it up a little bit and the kid kind of says to BJ Novak, like, maybe they should call you El Stupido. And he does at some point, like he calls the character by his real name, which I don't remember, Mason or something maybe. And then, Boyd Holbrook, who's that? And they go, El Stupido. And they go, oh, okay. Which again, I'm fine, whatever. It's a comedy, I guess. But the biggest issue I think I have though is just the ending, because they have this ending where BJ Novak confronts Ashton Kutcher about it. And, I do like the idea that there's fireworks going off, which conceals the sounds and everything like that. But again, the problem was Kutcher, to me, did not sell that scene. He was not a good enough actor to really pull off what he was going for and what he was trying to say. And I do think it was kind of an interesting idea, although again, I don't know, kind of reminded me of that last Scream movie or some other movies I've seen where it's like, oh, society won't. And it's like, yeah, okay, I don't know. I don't mind when like a villain says something like that, but then what I like to happen is then for that villain to then be proved wrong and for society to actually do the right thing. Now, granted, maybe that's a little bit of a happy ending and maybe that's not realistic, especially in the current climate and the world we live in now, where there is a lot of truth to the fact that there is no ultimate truth, anymore, and everything's open to interpretation and stuff like that. But then in deciding to, because I guess BJ Novak agrees with him or thinks that he's right or just doesn't want that to happen, he decides to shoot the guy. And somewhat cleverly, the fireworks cover up the sound. I like that part, but I didn't buy or really believe that BJ Novak's character would shoot the guy. I didn't think he had gone through enough to make him into sort of a cold-blooded killer. And I didn't necessarily like, even if they were going to do that, okay, in the heat of the moment, he got upset and killed him. But then he seemed to handle it okay-ish. Now, granted, maybe he's in shotguns, but like, killing somebody's a big deal. Like there's repercussions there. It affects you. It's not just like, okay, let's go to Whataburger and get some food now. And again, like the joke is the cops, comes on the radio, he's been shot, like, oh, must have been an accident. He didn't seem accident prone to me. And okay, fine. I get the joke that they're going for. But then at that point, it's almost unbelievable. And I know they reinforced it several times. No, nobody calls 911 around here. I will believe there are parts of rural Texas where, stuff like that does happen. But that seemed a little over the top, a little far to me where, at least somebody would be like, oh, and I guess it was at the same convergence of 4 different, jurisdictions, which was an interesting, sort of tangle there. But yeah, it seemed just a little unbelievable, a little unrealistic to me. So other than that, the movie is written and directed by BJ Novak. It's his first movie. He's most known for playing the intern Ryan on The Office. So overall, I think it was a pretty good movie. There was some really good stuff. I liked a lot of the humor. I liked a lot of the comedy. And I'm curious to see more from him. And I'm hoping that he does more after this. But like I said, I don't know if he was ideal for the lead. I do wonder if maybe the movie would have been better with somebody else in the lead. And maybe somebody else would have had a little input on the script there. But yeah, as far as the movie, as far as the score goes, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. I think it was a good movie. I liked it. I enjoyed it. But it didn't really exceed my expectations. It didn't I didn't love it as much as I wanted to, and I did really want to love it. And I think it's the ending, and it's Ashton Kutcher. If that role would have been played by somebody else, I think I would have liked the movie a lot more. It would have been easy 8. And I think if the ending would have been a little bit better or slightly changed, it could have easily been a 9 for me. But yeah, that's where I stand. So if you saw the movie, let me know what you think of it down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great night, and I will see you here again next week.